2019 has been interesting year for Disney. Ruining Rotten Tomatoes forever, essentially cheating with their box office numbers, not allowing Spider-Man to be on a kid's gravestone, Star vs. the Forces of Evil Season 4 being the worst way to end a good series, or at least up there, probably the least amount of hype I've ever seen for a Star Wars movie, and this piece of shit. Sure, Endgame became the highest grossing movie of all time, and while even I myself had a blast watching it, it does not make up for all the garbage that I've just mentioned. But amongst all the feces that has been spewed out of the rotting anus of Uncle Walt's dead corpse, comes a blooming flower, in the form of a new Disney Channel show from the Alex Hirsch tree of cartoon creators. And that show is Amphibia, created by Matt Braley, known for working in the art department and directing various episodes of Gravity Falls, though he has also worked on other Disney shows such as Big City Greens and the DuckTales reboot, as well as storyboarding and writing the Steven Universe Season 1 episode, Lars and the Cool Kids. Oh, and he even storyboarded Turbo. So what does Matt Braley deliver in his own show that will of course be crossing over into the next decade? Well, as always, we start with the characters, but before we begin, spoilers will be kept to a minimum, but some are still present. You've been warned. The main protagonist of this series is a 13-year-old girl named Anne Bonchui, played by Brenda Song, who has been teleported from our world with her friends Sasha and Marcy through a strange music box to the amphibious world of Montreal. The amphibious world of Amphibia. She begins as a rather self-centered person, though this does describe many preteens and teenagers, admit it. Anne is the straight man in this strange world, and while she tries to adapt to this world created for humanoid frogs, she is always more than eager to teach any of the inhabitants about modern earthly customs such as intricate dance moves, movies, reality shows, and of course pizza. And in the meantime, find a way to get this music box, which later is revealed to be called the Calamity Box, to work so she can get back home on Earth. I gotta say, while it has been revealed that she's loosely based on Pacifica from Gravity Falls with a sprinkle of Matt Braley's grandma from her youth, she does remind me of other Brenda Song characters. And as a typical hip teen girl who's all into the latest crap, much like how London Tipton and Wendy Wu were portrayed as. Though she's about 1,000 times smarter than London ever was, and is quicker to take situations seriously than Wendy was, though that might be because one is episodic and the other is a movie, and I'm just rambling at this point. I think she's pretty likable, and you see her begin to grow as a character, even though there's definitely more story to go, so I'm excited to see what future episodes hold for Anne. Throughout the series, Anne lives in the town of Wartwood with a family of frogs known as the Planter family, consisting of a 10-year-old frog named Sprig, his little sister Polly, and their grandpa, Hoppadiah, or Hop Pop as the kids always call him. Sprig, played by Justin Feldbinger, is who Anne hangs out with the most and becomes her best friend in the meantime. In terms of character, Sprig is pretty adventurous, much like Finn or Flapjack, and his character of also being bouncy both figuratively and literally is a character archetype that's always sit well with me. His little sister Polly, played by 2016 Blossom's voice actress Amanda Layton, is a rambunctious little tadpole who would rather do some roughhousing rather than drink tea and go to a spa. Sophisticates. She is the competitive little sister archetype that no doubt we've seen 1,000 times, but thankfully the writers were smart enough to have it all in small doses, and having only one episode focusing on this character trait. That does mean Polly is the least developed of the main cast, but she's only a tadpole after all. Which brings us to Hop Pop, played by Bill Farmer. That's right, Goofy himself. But if he's their grandpa and Polly's only a tadpole, where's the parents? I don't know, just something I noticed myself. But back to Hop Pop. He is the older, wiser frog of the group that's definitely been around the block or two, mostly pertaining to farming, as he is a farmer after all. He is protective of his grandkids, doesn't trust the residents of Wartwood, and is shown throughout the series keeping various secrets, not unlike a certain other elderly character from another show Matt Braley worked on. I do like mysteries as much as the next guy, but this just feels too similar to how Grunkle Stan had all those secrets that he was keeping from Dipper and Mabel, while simultaneously making sure they don't discover too much and trusted no one. But who knows, maybe this will go in a different direction. I'm just saying I don't want to retread. Be what Mighty Joe Young is to King Kong. Fortunately, as the series progresses, Hop Pop starts to gradually trust the folks of Wartwood in each episode. There are other characters that we meet in Wartwood, which I'll sum up quickly as each play a role in various episodes. Mayor Toadstool is a greedy douchebag that taxes the town of Wartwood to death but still has a heart at times. Toady is his slimy assistant. Buck Leatherleaf is the sheriff. One-Eyed Wally is the town freak. Sadie Croker is an old bag with a cataract in her left eye and has a pet spider named Archie. The Sundew family is close to the Planters, and the youngest one, Ivy, is the one you'll definitely ship with Sprig. Leopold Loggle is the town woodsmith with eyes that look like uncircumcised dicks. Albus Duckweed is a food critic and has the best voice outside of the main cast. Stumpy is a cook with no real hands and is tied with Albus for best voice outside of the main cast. Maddie Flower is Sprig's ex-fiancée because of events in a particular episode, and the town's Hot Topic enthusiast, and Quentin. On the flip side, we also meet the inhabitants of Toad Tower, who are a militarized force and the main antagonists of the show. Captain Grime, voiced by Troy Baker, is the ruler of this tower, and his name also sounds like he goes up against Mr. Clean on a regular basis. He's characterized by having only one functional eye, but no pupils anywhere to be seen, with a scar over his blind eye. There's probably a backstory to it, assuming it wasn't the doing of a cat. We get a glimpse of him at the end of episode 1B, Best Franz, and don't even get to know him or even his name until episode 10B, Prison Break, halfway through the season. At least in between, we've got all the build-up surrounding Hop Pop. Though there's nothing revealed about Grime having any knowledge about traveling to other worlds. As one would expect, he rules with an iron fist, and all that would sound bland and cliché if it weren't for Sasha. Sasha, played by Ray William Johnson's ex-girlfriend Anna Akana, like mentioned earlier, is Anne's friend who was transported to Amphibia when Anne opened the Calamity Box. And if you keep forgetting that detail, you're always reminded in the show's intro. Even though Anne is a rambunctious teenager and rebels against teachers, she still follows rules for the most part. On the other hand, Sasha is a total rebel and does not give a single fuck about what you think. She's also the reason the series exists, as she manipulated Anne into stealing the Calamity Box from a thrift shop in the first place. So basically, she's Pacifica if Pacifica wasn't held back by the rest of the Gravity Fall cast. Because Grime's toads are pathetic and frankly shouldn't be in an army to begin with, they have a hard time listening to him and are often terrified of him. To quickly sum up any toads that we get to know, the episode Toad Tax introduces the trio of Bog, Fens, and Meyer, who get Anne to join their group to collect taxes as Anne wants the residents of Wartwood to respect her, and this is her way of accomplishing that, I guess. Though without spoiling the rest of the episode, Anne realizes hanging out with that trio is almost like hanging with that creepy douchebag that always hung out next to the stairs leading to the front doors at school. So to rectify the majority of the army sucking, Sasha suggests to Grime that if he were nice, his army would listen to him. Because this surprisingly works, Grime makes Sasha his lieutenant. Guess it shows anyone can be manipulated. It does at least mean we get characters like Percy living out his dreams of being a jester. I just love that for some reason. Much like Anne, Sasha also desires to get back home. However, after spending all her time in Amphibia locked away inside Toad Tower, she thinks the toads are what will help them get back and is on board with the toads wanting to imprison the frogs, which leads us into the final episode of the season. Episode 20, Reunion. It's also revealed here that Hop Pop inadvertently started a rebellion in the valley unknown to him, so maybe Hop Pop's story actually goes in a different direction than Grunkle stands, but we'll wait and see. I'd also like to bring up that there is a point in this episode where everything hits Sasha, almost like a train, and it definitely transforms her to where we'll see it more next season. Without spoiling too much, Sasha realizes that Anne has grown as a person without her, as if Anne doesn't need her anymore. And in the background, Lean on Me by Bill Withers plays. Needless to say, it is a touching moment. It was definitely a nice springboard into the next season. So, now that our characters are out of the way, it's time for the design and animation. The show employs a round nature to everything, like everything else from this decade, but differently for the humans and the amphibians. While the human characters have round features, everyone is considerably lanky in their proportions and have some angles to their designs. This is a nice contrast to the frogs and toads who are soft and round, though this is what they're like in real life. Having this difference helps to sell our human characters being in a world that was never meant for them. Wortwood at first resents Anne, calling her a beast, freak, anything else of that nature, because they've never seen anyone else like her. There are a few quirks to Anne specifically, chief of which being how she's always got 2 leaves and a stick in her hair and the lone shoe. Anyone else find it funny how sometimes she'll have her hair done up, and then next thing you know, it's back to having the stick and leaves in that do of hers? I mean, I get it. She slept in caves before moving into the planter's place, but still. Also, I swear everyone's OCD went off when it was initially shown that she only had 1 shoe. At least we find out where her other shoe is, and hey, the more you watch the show, the less bothered you'll be by it. Maybe. One thing that I'm fine with is Anne wearing one outfit throughout the show since she's in a different world. How else is she supposed to change outfits like Star? Although, it makes you wonder where she got some of those other outfits unless she already had them in her bag with her when the Calamity Box brought her to Amphibia. It's probably that. Compared to the humans and toads, the frogs are considerably smaller and feature slim limbs as they are the underdogs in this fight after all. Plus, I like how the crew behind this show were able to get each frog to look different and distinct, whether it's old frogs like Hop Pop and Sadie, or sprightly and youthful frogs like Sprig and Ivy. Tadpoles like Polly are pretty indistinct from one another, though Polly does have her bow to stick out, might be a subtle Powerpuff Girls reference. Heck, there's even some variation when it comes to one-off character Gunther, who is a southern tusk frog that starts out as a lanky Kermit doppelganger, but will hulk out if he's pissed off, which does happen in the episode. As for the toads, they are all considerably bulkier than the frogs. It's always scarier when the bad guys are bigger. They too get about the same design variation as the frogs, though with a much tighter age range, as a militarized society would only want those who are most fit for combat. At least I'm sure that's how Grime wants it. I also like how the world of Amphibia mimics an 1800s-era society with the only modern-day characters being the ones that don't belong there. Not gonna lie, but this reminds me of the Bone comic series, which was also about a trio of characters being thrusted from their home into unfamiliar territory that's in a time hundreds of years behind. Oh yeah, and is also in a valley. Can't be a coincidence, right? But even though it's got an old-time setup, there are still some modern twists, such as how mushrooms are essentially light bulbs and snails are cars. Also, with the snails being cars, did anyone else get Chowder vibes? Come to think of it, the title cards put me in mind of the title cards for Flapjack, which Alex Hirsch also worked on before doing Gravity Falls, funny enough. Though, while Hop Pop does show a manual for the planter's snail Bessie, and Bessie makes honking sounds, she's treated like a car-horse hybrid, maybe if Benny from Roger Rabbit was a snail. The same can be said for the beetles and spiders you see characters ride in on, giving you the best of both worlds. As for the full world of Amphibia itself, it not only mimics the 1800s, but goes all out in being a world designed for frogs. Duh! There are plenty of bugs, both smaller and bigger than the frogs, as well as large reptiles, which is pretty much how things are in real life. Okay, maybe not that much bigger than frogs, but you get the point. I also like how in the episode Domino Effect, it puts the cat in Caterpillar. As for the episode itself, without trying to spoil too much, a caterpillar is a caterpillar no matter what world it may be in. And now, our last section, the story. Like mentioned earlier, the core story is Anne trying to get back home, all while adjusting to the world of Amphibia. Each episode focuses on Anne delving deeper into a certain area of Wortwood, or even Amphibia itself, though there are some spots where the overarching plot does progress. These spots mostly get saved for the end of an episode where it gets revealed that Hop Pop knows more about what's going on than Anne does. However, nothing is completely answered, which opens it up for later expansion down the line, which I appreciate. We do get one episode that doesn't feature Anne, and that's the episode Prison Break, which features Sasha and how she's dealing with being held in Toad Tower. We also get to see what the Toads themselves are like, since up to this point in the series, only one we ever focused on was Mayor Toadstool, and in the accompanying episode Toad Tax, it showcases 3 Toads that we've only just met, like mentioned earlier. I do think the mix between episodes where Anne connects with the world around her and where the frogs connect with earthly customs are well balanced. You'll also have episodes where Anne tries to drive a snail, or reinvent a restaurant as a frog Thai restaurant, or be the only one not to freeze on Hybrid Day. On the flip side, you see Anne introducing modern dancing, sugary pop, reality shows, movies, and even zits to the frogs as if they're the second coming of Jesus Christ because they think they're ruby warts. Cliché? Maybe. But the writing actually makes me care about these characters, and the humor always manages to shine through. One thing I especially applaud the crew for is that while it is stated that Anne, Sasha, and Marcy have been in Amphibia for 3 months, we don't get a glimpse of what's happening in the human world. Only time we ever see the human world is through flashbacks. Plus, we don't even know if 3 months have also passed back at home. For all we know, it's like in Narnia, where no time passes at all. And if not, that is some Amber Alert happening back home. As for the overarching plot, Season 1 had a good one going, but did leave me with tons of questions. Now, yes, seasons don't have to answer everything, but it honestly makes me wonder how many seasons Matt Braley has planned for this series. Alex Hirsch planned only 2 seasons for Gravity Falls and was firm on having it remain a 2-season show. If I had to guess, I'm gonna say 3 seasons on the basis that we have yet to see the third friend, Marcy, and Hop Pop knowing more than he's letting on is sprinkled into the episode endings every now and then. Point is, I'd like to see the show have a strong going and ending like Gravity Falls did, and not start out strong and then die towards the finish line like Star vs. the Forces of Evil. And now, my final thoughts. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. If Matt Braley can keep his team on track without any major studio mingling or even egregious fan outcry for ridiculous shit, then he will absolutely succeed. I enjoy what's on the table. I'm excited for what's to come. Though, one thing that popped in my head as I was writing this script was that I would like him to avoid teasing the possibility of Anne getting back, only for it to be false and having to do more crap for another season, and then repeating it over and over and over and over again. Will it happen? I hope not. However, seeing that the season finale ends with end of part 1, it tells me that just maybe he has everything mapped out like Alex Hirsch did before. I love the characters. I care about the characters. And I dig where the story's heading. I do also wish Matt luck when the Disney folks inevitably demand that he does more seasons against his will in order to milk their new cash cow. Let's be honest. But whenever Season 2 airs every episode, be sure to expect a review of that in the upcoming future. So anyways, that is my review. Subscribe if you haven't already. Just click right there. And also click the notification bell until YouTube implements a third step to following a content creator inevitably. And I will catch you all later. Peace. Come on. Get it straight. Anne is the straight man in this strange world. That didn't sound... Fuck! Anne is the straight man in this strange world, and while she does try... Fuck me! Come on!